All right, good afternoon. I think it's time for us to start. I don't know why most of your colleagues are not here, but our class is supposed to start at 1. It's a Sunday, so I hope to get the class to end early. Um, please, those who haven't, some people, I have about 12 to, I think, 14 people who haven't filled the Google form, so please kindly do so. It's going to be a data set that I'll also use to teach as well. So please encourage those who haven't done so to do so. I hope you are working on your interesting SWOT analysis case on Coca-Cola. Um, right. So we are continuing from where we started off yesterday. Yesterday we did a deep dive into what strategic management is, and then we related the strategic process and looked at how using data or data analytics can actually give better insights. So we know that for our program, it's a blend between strategic management and then data analytics. So why strategic analytics, where you are coming up with strategies based on data? Now, organizations, if they want to stand out, create competitive advantage, have that market share, create that image, be proud of a brand, build customer loyalty, must do whatever it takes, positively, of course, to ensure that they are creating that value that their customers want. And strategic analytics is one of the emerging tools that organizations can use. It's a management principle that they can apply. It's on the basis that data is all around us. So, what can you make out of that data to give you that advantage in terms of how you strategize in all aspects of the organization's operations, from their processes, methods, from how they relate to their suppliers, how do they relate with their distributors, how they relate with their customers, how it even influences their place in industry, in sectors, in their geographical regions. So how more or less do they use data as a tool, as an asset in their business and planning their both immediate and long term outlook? So strategic analytics is a critical component of the management process so far as strategies are coming up. It involves using data and analytical tools to identify patterns, trends, and insights that would lead to a more informed strategic decision making process. It actually answers the question of how quantitative and qualitative information can be used to make strategic decisions. So it's not just about having the data or the data existing, but what you make out of the data that will give you that insight. Right. Hold on. I think I've missed the slide. That's what I'm trying to find. Okay. So analytics is the practice of capturing, managing, and analyzing data to drive business strategy and performance by using or transforming data into information. So it's making sense out of the sea of information that you have as an organization. I think I'm missing some slides. That's why I'm a bit confused. Please give me a second. Let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, I'm on the right path. I just got a bit confused. All right. Now, just to recap the role of analytics in terms of strategy. And it's basically dealing with the data, the type of data that you have. The type of data you have is also dependent on how you're actually acquiring that data, the infrastructure that you have, the type of analysis that you carry on that data. Right? You can have very good data, but if you do not analyze it properly, you might not get the results or outcome that you need. You can use both quantitative and qualitative methods, right? But most of the time, we tend to use quantitative methods. But remember, sometimes you can use certain statistical tools on qualitative data to be able to come up with um, the relevant data that you can utilize. The various models that are used, these are all recaps because you've done them in other courses. All right. Now, the essence of analytics is not just analyzing, but allowing you to see the patterns, trends, and then not only that, why do you see these occurrences? What are the cause? And then, if you want to influence it, what must be done? If you are looking at a positive outcome or a negative outcome, what does the data speak to? And then, how can you actually um, get that? So, example, I mean, sometimes don't you wonder how do they come up with these sale prices? The 50% off, 20% off, 30% off, buy one, get one free. All these are not just random things that happen, but it's based on some analysis of data patterns. All right, be it from purchase price, cost price, or from the sale volumes and numbers that they are getting. The type of customer segmentations that exist. We talk about niche markets. How do they determine those ones? All right. When you look at the insurance, finance, in terms of credit ratings, credit cards that are given, how do they determine that um, let's say it's car, some of the car owners that are insured are risk averse, or some are really highly, you term them as highly risky. How do we know to give someone credit card with interest rate of 2%, credit limit of $10,000, $50,000? It's not just looking at people's faces, but they allow the data to speak to them based on the analysis that they actually do. And then, of course, everybody's baby now, social media, understanding why certain handles are more popular, why certain influencers are, more popular, or other influencers are becoming irrelevant, using reviews to understand customers' perception on what they want and aspects that they look at, being able to use that to identify gaps in terms of what organizations think their customers want and what actually customers are expecting. Data now allows for organizations to be able to utilize it to understand better these. This gives the types of analytics, descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive. But the one that I found interesting, which is becoming more relevant, is the cognitive analytics. I'm sure maybe you've also done it. But now you're looking at how AI can give you a better insight into the types of trends and patterns that you can identify in data. Now, for you, I'm sure you're not worried, but a lot of people think, hey, it's going to take over the world, take over the world. We try to let them understand that it is not self learning. I mean, it's not self creating, sorry. All right. It's learning, it's mimicking what we are able to do. Now, the essence in all this is that no matter the type of data that exists, you still need the human intelligence to make sense out of it. All right. So because it's able to mimic certain understandings, is able one to do that faster. All right, and then be able to replicate various scenarios. And organizations that are able to use cognitive analytics have an added advantage or yes, there's an added advantage in addition to the other four types of analytics. All right, and it's used a lot now also in social media and especially in social media marketing. Those who have also built the capacity or capability are also using it in their public relationship issues, being able to know what to say to who, when, and how to address it. Right. These are main things you've done in other courses, so it's just a recap. So the text analytics, data analytics, visuals, you know those ones. Right now, IT in terms of big data, because everybody talks about big data, Internet of Things, and all that, and then the traditional data management that we know or we have, right? Data is coming from everywhere and anywhere, right? I tried analyzing just the little data that you had, and being able to manipulate it in so many ways is interesting what it can do if you know how to use it. So the first thing is how organizations collecting data, all right? And you know data can be structured or unstructured. The structured is what you are getting people to fill in forms automatically. Those are the ones that organizations have control for over and collect. And then the ones that are unstructured that I mean you can have people review and it would not be the same wording, right? But how do you also harness those type of data, right? Those ones are not not necessarily formal, and a lot of that is what exists in the social media spaces, right? And then the traditional data houses, that ones are controlled by the organization. It's like you fill the form applying for a service, applying for a product, applying for um, school. Those are very formal, controlled information, all right? And it's dependent on whatever type of transaction in terms of information processing that you will do. Unlike with the unstructured that's coming from social media. I mean, I don't know what is trending today. No, I don't. I said yesterday on I tried to monitor some of them. They are all going on about someone called Bliss getting married, and now they've nicknamed it Kissathon, and it's all over. When you sometimes I just try to check, and then that's what a lot of people are talking about. The day before, it had to do with a Samoejan, right? So it keeps coming. You can't always predict. All right, it goes with sometimes some sensational information that happens. But then, how do you make sense out of all of this? All right, that is where strategic analytics comes in, helping you to actually make sense of data that your organization formally collects and data that exists around you to better place the organization for business continuity in the sense that you are able to match your vision in terms of what your mission and objectives are going to be. So, strategic analytics works on the basis of providing a reasonable understanding of how a variety of quantitative methods, in conjunction with structured and unstructured data, can be used to help strategic decisions that have to be made in an organization. So, it means that there can be organizations that are planning their strategies and they are using the old basic um, information that they have, the dead data that they have to make decisions. So it could be based on the person's experience, it could be based on just that basic information that they have. Whereas with an organization that decides to use strategic analytics, they are going to make sense of the data or information that they have to be able to predict, and in predicting they would be able to use methods, models, and tools that would allow them to influence the outcomes that they are looking for. So if you have a scenario of two organizations, one using just the normal system of coming up with their strategy, just looking at basic environment, things that are happening without fully understanding the why. Right. One key thing that um, data analytics allows for us to do is to find out the causal relationships, and you can strip to the very base to find out the cause of the first level. Whereas understanding just a simple graph that says, oh, our sales was this year, first quarter this, without understanding why it was, right? The person who is using that predictiveness in terms of the models would make more sense in terms of their direction because they have the basis. So organizations are now looking into using their data, analyzing it, and letting it guide their strategic decisions in all aspects. Right? So a strategy that ensures analytics development and capability always would it be in line with the organization's goals, and the goals feed on the objectives, the mission, and the vision of the organization. It helps to identify optimal use of analytics, which can mean the difference between collection of reports. As I said, they give you first quarter, second quarter, versus high value information resource, telling you where exactly you had the higher sales, why you had the higher sales, so that you can make better sense of it and create that value. So it's not just about the dashboards, as I said, looking at the graphs and then the pie charts in simple terms. All right. So just that, and it doesn't allow you to do um, better. Right. No improvement is where some organizations get stuck. If you are looking at, let's say, the product life cycle, they are doing very well. They are at the peak of their sales maturity, so they think they want to stay there, right? But with proper data analytics, it would allow you also to look at your role in your environment, your macro environment as well, and be able to predict. In fact, sometimes they're able to predict how long you think you would stay there, predict as to if you do not change. I mean, the causal effect of if you would go down or if you would do better, right? So it's not only about just relying on that flat information, but making use, getting better insights, meaningful insights, more or less, right? That would allow the organization to make better decisions. Now, there's a link between organizations strategic management and analytics because they remember they exist separately as concepts. Strategic management is there. All businesses try to strategize based on the flat information that they have. But with analytics, you are making sense and creating value out of the information. So if the organization has a joint relationship or has a linkage more or less, then they'll be having strategic analytics. But if not, some of them have varied relationships in terms of association. So the first one, strategic management, is disassociated from the use of analytics. So that means they stand alone. Strategic management defines the use of analytics. It dictates the mode of engagement, the various processes within the organization. Strategic management maintains a dialogue. So there's some form of connection, there's some interaction somewhere. And then strategic management has a holistic perspective. So that is where strategic management interacts fully. So this is the is put in a chat to make it better. So when they stand alone, it means that it's only when they need to analyze a certain part of data, then they go and do that. So there's no plan. It's not part of the organization's operations that they use analytics hand in hand in their strategic management. Right. So it's just used for maybe a small data system that allows for responses to queries made by customers, where strategic management defines the use of analytics. It means that analytics supports monitoring strategy performance. Right, so it's used to see if they are meeting their mission, they are achieving the organization's the performance that they have outlined, and then they try to understand why that isn't happening. So it's just used more or less in this sense. It's not fully, but it's just to monitor certain maybe key performance indicators that they have. Some, but not all. So here it could be termed to be reactive. It's not proactive. It's not giving insights. Maintaining a dialogue between both strategic management and analytics. Analytics supports strategy innovation by offering insight from data as well as testing the robustness of strategic ideas. So here it's used to understand some of their measurement matrix to see why certain aspects, so maybe quality, why they are not reaching the level of quality in terms of their quality management practices. That's they are not attaining it. So they try to understand that aspect, that component, right? And then with the last one, that is where we want to be. Strategic management has a holistic perspective. So strategic analytics is actually what is happening here. Analytics is used as a strategic resource, right? So it is used in all aspects of the organization in terms of their planning, what the organization wants to do and where they want to be. Other interactions could also be looked at in terms of goal setting, analyzing situation, formulation itself, implementation, the decision that will be made, innovation, risk management. We'll look at it individually, right? So how the organization sets its goals towards um, determining the mission, the purpose of the organization. Here, analytics allows to look at the past data and then out of it be able to project. And based on the projections, the goals are properly set and then they strive towards achieving them. Let's look at the implementation. It actually monitors after the strategy has been formulated, it monitors and measures. So that's where it does the proper evaluation. So here it is part of the organization's operations itself and allows for continuous feedback. So you implement a certain aspect based on the simulations or what the data dictates. And if there are any variations, you quickly are able to work on it based on the feedback that you actually get from from your analysis. All right. In terms of innovation, based on data information, both internally and macro, the organization uses analytics to be able to predict and give certain opportunities or suggest opportunities in terms of new product services, even new markets, right? So it actually allows for what is known as creative thinking amongst the strategic level for management to be able to take advantage of that, right? So here again, if analytics projects, predicts, management must, right, implement it. If they do not, then of course you're not going to get the outcomes that they are looking for. So sometimes it also would depend on the capabilities of management, their understanding, right? And that is what leads us to our next unit, where we are looking at dynamic management, managerial, capability. We should have been able to finish this yesterday. Right, so we are moving to the second unit, which should have started today. I'll be sending the material to. I'll put it on the the general platform so you can actually have access to it. But then again, if you have any questions, any contributions, you can raise your hand and then please, I hope you can see the second unit. So the second unit is dynamic managerial capabilities. And for this unit, we'll be looking at what dynamic managerial capabilities is, why it's important. We'll look at the dimensions and components within dynamic managerial capabilities. We'll explain the impact of analytics on dynamic managerial capabilities and then big data analytics capability. Would actually have an in-class exercise. This one is not take home, so we'll do that and then present and see how we are able to properly analyze organizations using their dynamic managerial capability that would identify. Now, managerial capabilities are changing in the era of big data. There's no manager who now would not say that they don't recognize that there's information or there's data all around them. And then sometimes how complex this data or information is. And then secondly, to see that or to recognize that it presents them with opportunity or they can take advantage of it. Right. Now, dynamic capability generally, right? Those of you who have done previous research, you'd also find it in terms of theories that you can use to see where organizations, what can influence organizations' outcomes, whether it's performance, human resource, market share, quality, all the dimensions of performance. But dynamic capability refers to a company's ability to adapt or to innovate in a changing environment. And you all agree that we now are in a dynamic environment. Things change. I don't know for those of you who are in Accra, but where I live in Kumasi, yesterday it started raining from like 6 and still around 2 a.m. it was still raining. But if you step out this morning, it doesn't even look like it rained. Right? But previously you expected, so at least you know that there's something wrong with our weather. There's something, if you doubt whether global warming, at least you know it's happening. It does have an effect on businesses, some more than the other. Agrochemical industry, yes. Agribusiness, yes. But if you are in a processing sector and you might use something um, from, you might source from abroad, it's playing some, I mean, there are some weird global phenomena that are happening. How then do you prepare for it? What sense can you make out of these changes that are occurring? The information, the data is out there. All right. So organizations, how they are able to quickly adapt to the changing environment. All right. So now with dynamic capabilities by organizations, we are now looking at the dynamic managerial capabilities. Management level, top level, what are their capabilities? How are they able to quickly adapt? What characteristics allows for them to adapt? So that's the essence of what we're doing today. So dynamic managerial capabilities are a form of dynamic capabilities. They are concerned with the role of managers in refreshing and transforming the resource base of the firm so that it maintains and develops its competitive advantage and performance. Everyone wants to have job stability, and job stability can only occur if your organization is doing well, if they have a competitive advantage, if they are continuing to create value for their customers. And to be able to continuously do that, how are you going to use the information or data around you to plan for? You can have all the strategies in place, but if you do not have the right managerial capability in terms of what the management of that organization has and how they execute their job, you still would be forced to just be reactive instead of being proactive. So dynamic managerial capability, you see it as DMC. All right. DMCs refer to the ability of a firm's manager to continuously develop and adapt to the firm's resources and capabilities in response to changing market conditions and opportunities. So it's not only about the now, but identifying opportunities to make them strengths for the organization. DMCs are critical for firms that operate in dynamic and rapidly changing markets, as they allow managers to continuously adapt and innovate in response to new opportunities and threats. Managers need to therefore learn how to apply a combination of strategy concepts and analytical methods, be it quantitative or qualitative, to address unstructured complex strategic problems using data that is coming in from different forms. All right, information that could stem from your customers, information that could stem from your industry, your sector, competitors, other geographical um, locations, affiliate industries. If you're in the beverage industry and something is happening in, let's say, the bakery industry, those who do bread, those who do pastries, they are affiliated because most of the time people will buy soft drinks and would enjoy a pastry with it. So, how to even understand and make sense out of happenings within related industries than to assume it's bakery, so it has nothing to do with as a beverage industry. How are managers intuitive? How are they able to understand simplest and complex issues? Because they might need to take decisions that have consequences. Therefore, it must come from that strategic level. Decisions that could have long-term effect. Therefore, they have to come from that level. How rapidly they are able to take these decisions also have impact on the organization's performance. Right. So let's look at some strategic problems, right? And then the qualitative and quantitative analysis of it, and try and make sense out of it. Let's use it to make sense of how important DMC is in this instance. All right. So you are very comfortable in a particular sector, but you must analyze. Is it easy for you to be able to enter a particular market? It could be a geographical region, right, that you want to enter to. Maybe you are doing very well in Accra, but now the decision is to expand into, let's say, the Ashanti region. You need to understand that market, the localized market in Kumasi. So you need data to help you analyze the market in terms of the size, the growth, of course, how profitable that market is. How do you get this type of data? You can either do interviews with the experts, so you identify the relevant stakeholders and the key players, And you can get that information through interview, or you can actually use a survey. In certain instances, secondary data might be available, but you should be able to access this information and then analyze it to solve this particular problem. Now, yesterday we did the difference between a basic operational problem and a strategic problem, because strategic problems have long-term effects, have financial implications in terms of capital investment. Now, product and service design, you are coming up with a new product or you're modifying it. What exactly would you be modifying? It will be good to get feedback from the customers, how and why they use the product, so that once you understand it better, then you
Where
can
are you going?
you can make a decision about it. In terms of qualitative data, you can talk to people, you can use focus groups. Sometimes you can even telephone and call. Nowadays, you notice that the banks, the telcos, sometimes send information saying that they want to ask you about your experience, either in the banking hall or in their office. And if you are willing, they don't force you. You respond to a particular short code, and then you see that they follow up with a survey. But at the end of the day, you want to have a better understanding. You don't just say that. For instance, you notice that most of the beverage or the water packaging companies are now also going into soft drinks, into soda production. And then now they are also adding to their product portfolio energy drinks. I don't know if you've noticed. So there are so many types of energy drinks on the market. They didn't just happen that this is the type of energy drink. It was based on feedback they got from their potential customers and then now their current customers. So sometimes I look at them and they have very interesting ingredients, but it's based on what the users want, the customers want. Let's look at customer segmentation. Right now, you can use mathematical methods to actually understand the type of customers you have, being able to determine certain income levels or being able to use geographical settings. In Ghana, we have areas, we call them residential areas. Then we have, they are areas that we know that these are residential areas, therefore their property rates are high. The assumption is that it means that those there are of a certain income bracket. All right, so it allows for you to know that these people's spending power is a certain amount. It's not just saying it, but using the data to actually understand it. And then talking to people also based on one, you could use location. Not to put anyone down, but we all know that we have notable slums in Ghana. So you could be talking to my own people in Choco, or you could be talking to people in Nima. You could be talking to people in Kumasi. I think it's Abu Abu. Please, correct me if I'm wrong. Right? You know that they have certain per the location. You know that they have certain connotations that also dictates income level, but you need to verify that by also talking to them, going to conduct interview, asking them some of these questions, right? Yeah, interestingly, if you notice now, a lot of the media houses, they have this segment occasionally. Based on the hot topics, where they actually ask people to either vent or express their opinion. All that is data that they are also collecting. You can make sense out of it. Even if it's not you, you can sit back and analyze that data. because they ask them, where are you calling from? Sometimes the way we collect a lot of these unstructured data, if you don't take care, you don't even realize the value you have. You are Mr. So or Miss So, gender, your name, where are you calling from? Where do you work? Right? Easy demographics. Then the person gives their opinion. It's very easy for you to actually analyze such data, cluster it, and make sense out of it. Right? And for organizations that take data analytics seriously, it can allow them to use it to feed into where the organization wants to go through proper strategic analytics. It guides them, right? But it has to be led, and that is where the dynamic managerial capability comes in. It has to be led by management, seeing and understanding that they can make sense out of data that is already existing or data that they can actually collect. So, still looking at a few definitions. Dynamic managerial capability is the abilities of managers to configure their organization to achieve competitive advantage. Now, what this statement infers is that sometimes it takes a team or an individual to make change. That is why when organizations are able to poach certain personalities in terms of, okay, business persons or business leaders, they make a lot of noise because they know the capability of the person. They've seen what the person has done, and they're expecting the person to bring that transformational change. We now are going to understand those capabilities, where it stems from, and the implications. Right? For those of you who have been in business for long, for years back, maybe 20 years back, in the business world, when you mentioned the name Georganda, he was one of the best global marketers that existed. Every organization he touched, it was like a golden, he had like a golden touch. The transformation was crazy, right? You could see, as if you followed him wherever he went, you saw the change, you saw the growth in the organization. That unique capability that he had, that touch, right, is something that organizations want to constantly harness. Imagine having that golden touch and then being able to properly understand, analyze, and make sense of data available or sought by the organization. Right. Now, the term dynamic denotes the importance of change as a process to renew competencies to maintain relevance with the changing business environment. It's not just being number one, but being able to anticipate and change, evolve around a dynamic environment. And BlackBerry is a very good example, and I always use them. Being number one to zero now, I mean, they don't exist because they were not able to evolve. They were pinging while the world was androiding. The question is, didn't their management realize it? Didn't they make sense out of the change that was happening? And now the concept capability highlights the important role of the ability of the top management team and strategic decision making processes to adapt, integrate, and reconfigure competencies. So, identifying changes, building on their strengths, identifying opportunities, managing the threats, or changing them to strengths or opportunities rather. So, how these management teams or managers are able to modify or continuously extend the lead of an organization so that it continues to be profitable, right? You can have all the systems in place, but it's like having all the best um, in an orchestra, all the best individual instrument players, but not having the one that would harness that talent collectively. So the person's ability, their capability to be able to come up with excellent decisions that would always gear towards the betterment of the organization. So where they need to provide that change, they are able to provide the change, anticipate it quickly. Right. Now look at this decision that now Meta, but Facebook, the decision they made to acquire WhatsApp. I'm asking your thoughts. You've been quiet for I've been speaking for a long time. So now what are your thoughts on Meta, or formerly known as Facebook, acquisition of WhatsApp and Instagram? And we are looking at it with these two dynamic managerial capabilities, but our understanding of the dynamic and the capabilities. What are your thoughts on that acquisition? You can unmute yourself and speak. Daniel, please go ahead. You've unmuted yourself already. Hey, my people, speak, oh, else we will turn into a mental test, oh. My question again, it's not a question. I'm just asking for your opinion on Meta, that's Facebook's acquisition of. Yes, Sunny, please go ahead.
Okay, so my thoughts about the acquisition is, well, formerly Facebook just owned like Facebook. So in order to be dynamic, they had to capture more or different social media platforms that did different things compared to just Facebook. So in terms of the dynamic aspect, I think having different aspects or different kinds of social media platforms links nicely to that one. And then the capabilities, all the different types of the social media platform had different capabilities. For example, when you come to WhatsApp per se, it's just like a strictly communicative platform from person to person. Even though you can have the occasional like groups and stuff, but it's more linked to just a person to person communication. So being like getting access to that also helps like gain more grounds on what they want to
All right, thank you. So, yeah. Yeah, please go ahead.
So my take on this is looking at their dynamics. It got to a time where people saw Facebook as old people social media, where only uncles and aunties were using it. The new generation didn't like using it,
True,
and so
true, true.
they used not to actually go there. When you talk of Facebook, people had this negative feeling on it, and because of the connotation that they gave to it, like they were advertisement company where they are trying to suck out people's data. People
Mhm.
tend to feel a little bit negative towards it. So it started reducing their market share a little bit. And in that case, they needed to change their business. And I think acquiring WhatsApp actually gave them that competitive edge. Because in WhatsApp, people tend to share a lot of more personal things, and then people tend to gravitate towards the new generation were using WhatsApp at that time,
Mhm.
not Instagram. So that actually gave them a little bit of competitiveness. And then the ability to actually not inculcate more adverts into WhatsApp when they even acquired it is a little bit of the capability session. They realized that if they brought the advertisements that they use in Facebook to WhatsApp, people were going to leave WhatsApp. So they strategized to make find a way that okay, we are not going to introduce adverts to WhatsApp, but still try and get people on WhatsApp and then Instagram and figure out the best way to let people get more in tune with the applications so that they can still utilize us since they are still with for us. I think that's how
Yeah.
they.
All right. One last contribution. One last contribution, then we move on. My ladies, I need to hear your voice. Okay, Akwesi, go ahead. None of my ladies are coming up.
Okay, sometimes I think the strategy is just to buy out your major competitors. So, because if you're able to do that,
Brilliant.
you, yes, you get a competitive, you get a very big competitive
Exactly.
advantage, and you tend to enjoy the monopoly.
Exactly. That was number one. They had the data. I mean, I think in months before they took over WhatsApp, they released their statistics, and it was amazing. And then, as um, was said, you notice that Facebook was also going down because of the brand that they, the tag that it was for we the older ones. And then don't forget, it was right after the Cambridge Analytics thing, right? The U.S. election, where it was believed that they found a way of monopolizing our accounts and feeding us with negative information and jeering in fact, more or less manipulating people to vote for a particular candidate. So they needed to rebrand, and you did say that. And then, of course, WhatsApp, the variety, even though they were their key competitors, it offered them um, another type of service package, real time information, and then most importantly, because you already have been tagged with saying that you are selling information of the various account holders with Facebook. I mean, for you in data analytics, you know that it is still possible for them to sell, but at least generally, you know that your data is more secure as compared to Facebook. So they bought out their competitors. That is what it was, right? And now they are the number one when it comes to any social media platform collectively. If you want to instantly post your message on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, you can do it in one click. So those who are really into social media, it helps them. So it came up with a product variety in the same portfolio. And it was based on the data and the information that they got. They realized how they were going down, the branding, the tagging that went with it. Now, amongst out of these two, now Facebook Marketplace is a very powerful business platform. I think it's number one in comparison to Instagram. People need anything, and I tried to do an experiment, and people are actually selling houses in the US. I don't know about Ghana, but in the US, people are putting up their buildings on Facebook Marketplace. It tells you the level of confidence that they have now in the brand Facebook Marketplace for commercial activity. So it's also actually a strategy, all right? Mergers and acquisitions, making sure that you are taking over your competitor so that you gain all those numbers. All right. So it was a very good strategic thing, rebranding, new targets, new variety, new business. Right. But it took leadership to do that. It took they realizing that things are changing. What can we do? And leadership to push, or management to push for that. Right. So some of these things we see happening, we don't realize it's 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 a strategy, but it's a strategy that's driven by data. It doesn't. So the question is, didn't Snapchat also see it? But maybe their management didn't have the vision for it. Now, a dynamic capability is the firm's potential, I think I've said it, to systematically solve problems formed by its propensity to sense opportunity and threat, and to make timely and market oriented decisions, and to change its resource base. So, if we are using even the meta case, they were dwindling sites. They had been tagged to be for the oldies. people didn't trust them anymore because we had sold information. People could, target individuals. Don't forget, they still have security issues in terms of all these cases that they are facing in both Europe and the US. But they sensed an opportunity in taking over a clean business, one that was youthful, something that will grow. You see, when you catch them young, they are going to grow with you, right? All that is business opportunities because they had seen the threat of they dwindling to just be for the elderly. What happens when the elderly become extremely old and then now they can't even, you know, hold the phone? So it means that you'll be looking at a dwindling market. Right. So it was a very timely decision that they made. It wasn't straightforward. I think it went back and forth for a while, but eventually they were able to. I think they sold it for close to a billion or billion plus. I've forgotten the figure, right? But the young men made very good money to go with it, and then the relevance. Now, one thing I forgot is now WhatsApp has the business platform as well. Not only that, now they've added the channel. Now you can do group calls, and most importantly, and please watch this space. How many years from now? But just watch it. You see that now you can actually share screen on WhatsApp. I don't know if you've noticed. Excuse me.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah. You notice you can share screen, and then how many people? What's the maximum number of people that you can do having a video call? Who knows it offhand? On WhatsApp. Okay, so it's 32 people, right? Now let's take the jurisdictions where they don't have for postgraduate. Maybe they don't have more than 20 people in a class, right? For such a class, immediately WhatsApp has become what? I'm asking you. You can share screen. You can video call in the and it can allow for 32 participants in a video call where you can share screen. So if you have a class that's up to 20 people, 25 people, looking at all the technologies around us, what's the implication?
WhatsApp would be the ideal place to have the class.
Exactly. We don't need to Zoom. They've immediately become a competitor to Zoom. They are transcending the social media space. And now they are moving into where you can have. Remember, WhatsApp, we are saying, okay, so not we, sorry. They are saying is what? End to end encryption. So if you're having a meeting there, it means it's what? Secure. Just as Zoom is secure. So now not only are they being just a social media platform, very soon, and maybe for all you know, others are doing it. Maybe there are lectures that are going on. For us, it's a bit impossible because we are more than, pardon me, the number. But in certain jurisdictions, immediately now WhatsApp is a competitor to Zoom, to Skype. All right. So being able to see the opportunities that exist out there, right? Anyway, now components of dynamic managerial capability. There are generally three components. It's learning, strategic, and then resource deployment. Now, learning orientation. It refers to the willingness of a firm's or an organization's manager to acquire new knowledge and skill, as well as the ability to use that knowledge to create new processes, products, and services. So being able to learn, right? Generally we say that as adults we don't just learn. You have to unlearn what you know. You have to let it go. Learn again. All right. So you have to unlearn and relearn. Because sometimes if you are holding on to what you already know and not refusing to let it go, you cannot learn. All right. So you have to always learn, but you must unlearn to relearn. And I'm sure we've come across some of these people who are not willing to actually accept the new, but they want to go with what they know. Those of you who work in the public sector, those are the ones who ask us, "Oba Adabeng," because they have been there for so long. There's a nickname for them. I'm trying to remember, but there's a nickname we have for them. Mebayache, yes.
MBA.
MBA, thank you. That's what I've been trying to write. Mebayache, those ones. Right? So they don't want to change anything. And in management research, strategic management research, a lot of them come up to say that why the indigenous businesses, that we have a lot of small indigenous businesses, it's characteristics of the developing country. Why a lot of them fail as soon as the initiators or the founding fathers of those businesses die off is because they never used any standard method. They used their way and nothing would allow them to change. So if you look at some of our, SMEs and enterprises, right? The CEO is the director, is the boss, is the chairman, he's the finance officer. He's also the marketing manager. So in such a case, how do you get the person to realize that, look, we need to digitalize some parts of our business? Case in point, look at, do you have an idea the number of buses in the fleet of VIP? VIP, and I'm looking at only VIP Kumasi Accra, the cooperative VIP. Who has an idea? Hey, this one is data. You should have it. Who has an idea? The number of buses that plan?
Doc, are you referring to the buses that plow from Accra to Kumasi?
Kumasi Accra route, yes. Do you have an idea?
No, please.
There are instances.
Doc, I think they have enough.
They have enough. Oh, they have more than enough. They have more than enough. Now there are instances where you hear a businessman in Kumasi's name mentioned, and he has over 50 of those buses. All right. Now the data I'm getting from my quick search online is, but that one is as at 2022, and it says they have over 800 buses, which is possible. I mean, because gosh, so when you see the buses, there are about 5 notable names that are at the back. When I say names like Nyamidia, There are so many other names that come up, right? So if they say 800, I'll take it. Now, for these 800 buses, when you are going to board, how do you board? You go to the gate, unless there are shortage of bus, then you go and sit inside to queue. But if not, you buy your ticket, and the ticket is the what is it called? How do you call that thing? It's a ticket, right? What do I call it?
Yeah, it is. It's a ticket.
Yes, it is a ticket.
Yeah, but it's manual, right?
Yeah,
Yes, you
manual.
have.
Eh,
You pay. They don't.
your line is breaking, so I can't hear you.
Doc, I was saying it's a ticket. You go in there, you pay manually, and you have to pay cash. Last time I tried paying Momo, they said they don't take money.
Exactly. And the tickets, you see, it's there's a marker, like it's manual. It's a manual system. Now, which individual company would have a fleet of 800 and still operate a manual system? Right? From your, I mean, if you look at you in the IS space, it does, like, how? It doesn't make sense that you still have, and then the bookman will be writing with the marker, right? Seat one, seat two. I don't know if you've noticed. Sometimes if they are bored, when you get there, they've already done it. So then they just give it to you. You tell them you are two, then they give you the 2 seat one. Manual system. You have no idea the number of times we have tried to just do a very simple database system for them that would allow them to, just even print it out, right? Truth be told, we are breaking a law because the law says that you should capture the details of every passenger in a passenger vehicle. I don't know if you know that. So STC does it. Hey, let me take my time. Maybe they've also stopped. Does STC still do it?
Yes, they do.
Yes, that's the law. So that, right, in case anything happens, they have that database. So you notice that for a lot of the accidents that happen, they don't even know who is where, what. Like, no, there's no data, no statistics for it. Not to Isaac, please go ahead.
I just wanted to add that apart from STC, other smaller transport cooperatives does it. I think they have this app. Is it Aya or Oya app? And then when you sit in the car, they can
Yeah.
take your phone number,
Oh,
your
okay. Which
details,
one, please?
agency.
Which
I,
which route?
I don't know. Okay,
The
the
same
last time I
Kumasi to
used
Accra.
Kumasi to Takwa, I
Mm.
did that, and then Kumasi to
On which
Takwa.
one? Like which one? Which is it? GH Express? That's what I'm asking.
No, it's the smaller. It's Ford actually,
Oh,
smaller
Ford.
buses.
Okay.
Ford
Thank.
and these new Toyota small buses.
Oh, thank you to know. I didn't know that. I'll find out about it. Thank you. So is that Kumasi to Takwa? At least that one I can go and ask immediately.
Yes,
Yes.
Kumasi to
Okay.
Takwa.
Yes. But no, I mean, it was a sad thing. But about 3 years ago, just before COVID, you remember the accident that happened in Kintampo, where the buses were bent completely, and the bodies were so charged that they had to bury everybody. Trust me, up to now, I don't think they know everybody that was buried or everybody that was on the bus. Ernest, please go ahead.
So yeah, it's not only the small buses they use there. They have these VIPs at Takwa and Takrade. They also use that technology
Takwa to where?
to Accra.
And then,
Takwa to Takrade and then Takrade to Accra.
oh, okay. Thank you
So
very
it's
much.
like they are rolling it out. Also,
Okay.
I just Googled VIP and it's like they have an online platform for buying tickets. I don't know how functional it is.
The students have never said it's gone through.
All right.
So yes. The issue with the VIP one is the is so their concept is as a cooperative. So individuals own the buses and they come together. The the interactions I've had with a few of the drivers is that as soon as he loads, right, the owner knows he's loaded, and by the end of that trip, they want the money. They don't want it to go to a central point, and then from the central point, you are now going to give to them. The current system they run is that as soon as the bus is full, whilst we are sitting there waiting, the driver goes and collects the money. He knows that is his money. But with the system we are building for them, we are saying that you collect and then it goes into, like, it has to go to the bank or something. You are doing a complete system, and then later they have to disburse it. No, they don't want that. But don't you think that it would take a particular leadership to say, you know what, no, we have more buses, to some extent better buses than STC. Why are we still using this old system? It would take a leadership to say either you do it or you take your bus away, right? Because we've seen that that is what is done globally. As you are saying with the app, it would make sense. It took one of their leadership to set up the um those of you who know Kenton Chrono, right after campus, there's a Shell filling station there where you can actually go and wait and pick the bus as long as you can get the ticket. So it's now like a stop. And the idea is that it makes sense for the students to go and wait there than to go all the way back towards New Plan, pay extra, and then board the bus. It took leadership to understand with a particular SRC leadership. So being able to learn, understand the changing dynamics, right? So the capability is also based on the learning orientation, being willing to learn and relearn. Then the strategic flexibility. It refers to a firm's ability to quickly adjust its strategy and resource allocation in response to changes in the business environment. This includes being able to recognize and act on emerging opportunities, as well as being able to withdraw from unprofitable or unsustainable activities. All right, so being flexible to increase in demand, being responsive to decrease in demand, not holding on to something that doesn't exist. So I'll use COVID. When COVID happened, shut down, no interaction whatsoever. But we also wanted a certain normalcy. And it was government's policy to try and see how at least education could be stable. What it meant was that you are not supposed to meet physically, right? But you should be able to have lectures. Um, I'll come back to us in the chat. Anyway, right. We had an online platform that our distance learning students had their materials there. It was for asynchronous learning. But within a certain short time, we needed immediately to go online because in the developed world, within a week, after all schools were closed down, unis, even crash, all the way to university level, their only break was just about a week, and then they were back in school online. They were doing everything online. So now we had to move from asynchronous to synchronous, being able to upload all materials online, getting students to register online. But the key thing is that it's not about the students registering online, it's about the lecturers and facilitators also being able to use the system and then be able to teach online. It meant that the university had to roll out a training program for staff and all that. But for the business school, a lot of lecturers already were using some of these learning management systems. If you taught a core course in the business school, you are teaching more than 500 students. And the only way you can do that effectively and efficiently is using some level of technology. So most of us were already using Schoology. most people were using Schoology already. So that capability existed. Now, the dean at that time was like, the university system that they are going to roll up is going to take quite some time. For business school, I mean, we are business school. And I say so proudly. We need to show that we can do it because for us, time is money. So he charged a few of us to quickly come up, roll up, and let the business school start way before the university starts. In fact, let the business school start, let the university learn, and then correct where we have shortfall. So for the business school, within 3 weeks, we had started also enrolling our students, and lectures had started way before the university did. But it took a dean, right, to see that look, if we are going to wait for all of us in the university, and it's going to take a while. Meanwhile, this COVID, I mean, those were the days you wake up every day and the number of people who had died per day were over 100,000. It didn't look like now COVID is like cold. Qatar. In fact, it's milder than Qatar. Then it didn't look like it. So we all thought we were going to be locked down and it was going to be our way of life. So then let's start it and let people get used to it and move on. So the business school in the whole of Ghana started online lectures for Ghana before any other university started. So by the time others were starting, we were wrapping up and getting ready for exams. But it took a leader who was willing, who was learning from what was being done, the best practices, all right, that were going on then, responding to this challenge, taking advantage of it, and then we started. Right. So being able to respond. If not, then of course you would have challenges. Now the third, resource redeployment. I'm sorry. It refers to a firm's ability to reconfigure its existing resources and capabilities in order to create new sources of competitive advantage. It involves reallocating resources to new products or markets, as well as developing new capabilities through training and development. Right. So KNUST's main campus is Kumasi, but our next bigger campus is Accra. And rightly so. What is the population of Accra in comparison to the rest of Ghana? Where do we find all headquarters of any business you can think of? Any business in Ghana. Okay, let me be careful. Maybe is there any business that the headquarters is not in Accra? I'm thinking. I hope you're also thinking. Is there any big business that the headquarters is not in Accra? Forget after the public sector. Yeah, there's no public sector that has any agency anywhere. Even the ports and harbor, even though the port is Takrady and Tema, is still everything is still Tema. So, is there any other business? Hmm. Okay, Chicken Man. Yeah, Chicken Man. The head office is Kumasi. Guinness, Ghana. Yeah. Kasi, right? And then what about the company that Olam? They took over from. No, they are 3 zones. Guinness. Okay. Pizza Man. Pizza Man and Chicken Man. Right. So what it means is that all top management, right? Any company, any organization, any governmental agencies, all of their top management, you find them in Accra. So when they are doing their resource allocation, a chunk of it will go there. Rightly so. I mean, if all your um, strategic level management is within a particular place, if it comes to the HR resources, training centers, where you'd have continuous professional development programs, you'd have all of them in Accra. Right. if your factories are located in other areas, and we see some of them, and you have a lot of the agro businesses complaining, right? So we have some of the processing factories. Don't read politics into it, but the tomato factories, the sugar, the starch, right? Those are dependent on certain resources. If those resources are not available, they have no choice than to shut down. And if it's a company that has other units or other offices, they would assign their staff, if they need them, to those places. They would remove all the relevant infrastructure that is not needed, like the or equipment, vehicles, and all that will be moved, because it would not make sense to keep a fleet in a factory that is closed. How do you maintain it? All right. So organizations should be able to recognize that when businesses are going down, when demand is dwindling, you adjust capacity accordingly. But you would use statistics to recognize it, that it's going down. Again, in the university, there are programs that have they are dead more or less, right? And then we still have every year or two there are new programs that continue to emerge, and these new programs emerge in response to the dynamics of industry or the dynamics of our the social environment in which we are in. All right, so your course, data analytics, is one of the newest programs in the business school, and it's in response to the needs, all right, of industry, that they want to make sense of all the information that's around them so that they can take better informed decisions. Previously, you had what's it called? Data processing as a course. There were so many other programs that existed that were relevant then but are not now, because nobody would want to do it. So you are not going to employ people to teach programs that no one would want to enroll in. You want to be relevant. You want to have people applying for programs that will make sense. So you realign and you readjust and reallocate resources as and when they are needed. So if you had classrooms or specific theaters that were for data processing, by now they would have been reassigned to programs that are more relevant. Okay, so Stephanie, can you explain the mining and oil companies? Expatiate on the example of the mining and oil companies.
It was to support the points that you were raising as to whether all companies have their main headquarters in Accra.
Oh, okay, all right, sure, thank you. Yes, it's true. So you have Ashanti Gold, and then their head office is at Patrice Lumumba Road, Gold House, far away from the gold, but they are there. Yeah. So I mean, typically in Ghana, that's what it is. All the big companies, right? But being able to recognize and then um, realign resources without holding on. Yeah, in response to, I did indicate that VIP is a cooperative, right? But it's a cooperative that has leaders that are managing it for them. So it's about a system saying that yes, your data will be there, your tickets. You know how you normally would go to buy a ticket. You are two, you buy two seats. If you are an individual, then you want an individual seat. The seat map is there. When they are done, I mean, the data is just collected. So you know that on this route, which left, and then it captures it. The tickets were sold at 6 o'clock. All right. Kofi Mensa, whatever, everybody's name with their contact details is there. So just in case, I mean, it's part of risk management. Just in case anything happens. So with STC, they ask you your emergency contact, and you put it there so that in case something happens, there's someone to call. Right. Part of our disaster response is that, I don't know if you've heard, but there was a time where Road Safety Commission was teaching people how to enter every phone allows you for the emergency contact, which you can call without unlocking the phone, because they don't have that information. The bus driver doesn't have it. And I'm talking about VIP, and it's one of our selling points. But still, is no, they are not. They don't get it. They want their money now, now, now. But it's the law, and you wonder why. Yeah, but they still don't get it anyway. And even now, with the advent of traceability, right? It should be good to see that the bus has taken off using anyone's phone, right? To know that the bus is from this point gone to this point, allowing passengers to be able to share, and then you can properly, you know, get that. There are so many things we can do now. That's well, anyway. Now, developing a learning orientation, strategic flexibility, and resource deployment capabilities, organizations will be able to build their competitive advantage, right? And in line with their vision. So these are examples. So for the learning orientation, I learn and learn and relearn. So a tech company encourages its managers to participate in regular training sessions or emerging technology. So there are companies that have budgets for especially their staff, right? So that they can harness their skills, acquire new skills, and help the organization, right? But in the public sector, they will tell you when it comes to the training, the right people who have to go, those who use the training itself, right? The skills that they learn, they are not necessarily the ones that will go for some of these trainings. But those are the only ways you can learn. All right. And sometimes I know some organizations, when one person goes to learn, they come and then they also organize training sessions for every member of the team. For the university, the rule is that if the university sponsors you, you go for a training session, or sometimes even for certain particular types of conferences. When you come, you have to present your report. If it involves you giving a training session or a talk to the those who benefit, the beneficiaries, is you are allowed to actually do that, right? So that then you are also encouraging a learning organization. Then for the strategic flexibility, so another retail company, a large one as such, notices a shift in consumer behavior towards online shopping. The company swiftly reallocates its investment from physical store expansion to development of an e-commerce platform and logistics for online delivery, because they realize that now people will rather buy online. What is the sense in putting up or leasing more shops when your customers are online? You are rather better off investing in faster delivery systems, flexible delivery systems, so that the items can get to the customer. At the end of the day, the bottom line is the sale, right? So why don't you use the new avenue, being able to adapt? Then resource deployment. So a pharmaceutical company has strong research and development team that, of course, are looking for new healing for certain diseases. So they are looking at coming up with different drugs. When several promising drug lines fail to gain FDA approval, the company reallocates its research resources to support the development of medical devices. So maybe they realize that the formula is not fine, it's not working, and they keep going and they keep getting bounced. Maybe they can look at doing devices rather than looking at chemical combinations, right? And it could yield good returns and then add to their um, money streams, right? Revenue streams. Now, the dimensions of DMC, dynamic managerial capability, it ensures an integrated method using resources or resource management and scenarios to evaluate and configure resources to the requirements of the external environment using familiar practices from experience. So more or less like simulations, right? But based on data and seeing where you need to make certain shifts. So it's not based on analogy, just your thinking, right? But it is based on attributes that are associated with these three dimensions, being able to identify the various activities which are known as the tasks, being able to interpret the scenarios, the scenes, the occurrences, that's the cognitive, and then making decisions based on the behavioral patterns, right? So the dimensions are also three. So with the task, it involves asset orchestration. So being able to put together the various assets or resources that are needed. So resource management, which is the comprehensive process of arranging the firm's or organization's resource portfolio to build capabilities and leveraging these capabilities with the objective of creating value for the customer, invariably creating profitability for the organization. So understanding the various resources that are needed, putting them together, and then being able to use them, gain capability in using them to produce or to come up with what the organization stands for, that your customers are willing to exchange their value in terms of finance for that particular product or service. Now, how do you know the exact resources that you need? All right. It could be based on what goes on in the industry, based on your research and development units coming up with some of these new resources. It could be based on innovations that come up, but being able to understand the resources that are needed and how they will be used. For the task dimension, it's made up of three different variables: the structuring, bundling, and leveraging. Structuring looks at how management more or less arranges, acquires, deploys these resources. So where are you sourcing for the resources? The ones that you need to build internally, right? Being able to train people, being able to groom people, being able to develop those resources yourself. So whether it's vertical integration, you also look at that. And then where the resources are not needed, where you need to let go, eliminate them, you do. So you see that for, I think recently, a lot of people were 2 weeks ago, yeah, specific. They were making noise about the American embassy was auctioning off their items. That is divesting resources. They don't need it. But rather than bin it, let's see if people are willing to buy them, and either they'll scrap them or if they can put them to use, why not? So that is why auctions are allowed even in the public sector when it comes to the Procurement Act. That it's a way of getting rid of items that you cannot service on your own, items that could even have scrap value. But organizations must realize that and not hold on to it, right? So you notice that when it comes to you, I don't know, but especially for Kumasi, the olden days, I'm told the land size is like what we currently have as 2, 3 plots was the normal land size that was being sold. And you see a lot of these huge buildings, right? And people cannot, those who have it's been bequeathed to, can't maintain it. So you notice that a lot of them, if you come to Kumasi, are now being broken down. And then you have new apartments being put on it, even on an individual basis. They are finding way to eliminate space of a facility that's not being used, right? And then turning it into a particular resource that is needed. They turn it into more appealing and easy residential facilities, and then people are able to utilize it, right? So sometimes build factories have equipment that they do not need or are not efficient anymore, and they need to get rid of it and get more efficient resources, equipment, right? They would look at what is exists, look at the data in terms of what its outcome or outputs are in comparison to the old ones that they have, and then they can let go, right? Now, Ghana has this unique thing, especially in the Asafu area, the printing press. Some of the machines, the companies that produce them do not exist, but they have built the capability that allows them to still be able to maintain those old equipment. So for them, they've realigned that resource, found ways of maintaining it, and they are still utilizing it. But for a lot of other sectors, no. So after structuring it, you look at bundling it, combining the various resources so that it's as an advantage, or you're able to build use or capability of it. Sometimes it's increasing the capability bit by bit. It could be training, all right, that you are giving to individuals so that they can perform a certain task or activity. It's also being able to adapt some of the capabilities so that they become versatile, right? One area where now I find it very interesting. So sometimes you see, if you go to the mechanic, I go occasionally, and that how do you call it? You know how some of the mechanics they are in an area, so you have three different masters in an area, right? And then they are fixing something on your car. You see them, you say, hey, all of you come. You've not seen some of this one before, so come and learn. And truth be told, you see, they'll all be there and they'll be learning. And then they'll pass comments. So this is where this part is. Hey, these people are changing. I mean, now, because of the way that the cars are becoming more electronic in nature, right? Then they are learning bits. They wouldn't, in fact, they have no opportunity to go and sit in their classroom to go and learn it, but they learn it on the field. So if, for instance, you have a fleet, and then you have a few mechanics that lead or manage that unit, you don't necessarily have to send them abroad somewhere. Sometimes they can just go and learn about a particular part, or there's a new car or new vehicle that you bring in, and as long as we are in Ghana and as long as we have some of the roads we have, by all means, you need to fix something once in a while, right? You need to give them that continuous training so that they can ensure that your fleet management system works. But it will be based on the information that you have. That yes, this vehicle is more efficient, but it gets spoiled, and this is the part that normally gets spoiled a lot. So why don't we give the person a bit of skill to be able to let them function properly? Then pioneering new capabilities to face competitive issues. Now, if you look at the packaging industry, you see that the packaging industry is really changing. Um, the Bell Company, they've gone into cannery, right? I don't know if you've seen their products, Bell Beverages. But now it's not only the bottle, but they've gone into cannery. I actually have one in my hand here, and it is very nice. Their Coke can, if until you turn it, you might actually think it's a new type of Coke because it's a slimmer tin, right? Can, yeah, and it looks nice. What it meant was that they had to have set up, because it's actually done. I'm looking at it, and it's made here in Ghana. The company is at Tema, and it's manufactured in Ghana, right? So what it means is that new assembly line, cannery, because it's not common. We are all used to of course, apart from the big companies. Okay, Isaac says they are now doing tissue paper. Bell, I haven't seen their tissue. Yeah, I mean they are diversifying, but what it means is that in order for them to diversify, they are building those capabilities. All right, so the new um assembly plant or the new production line, sorry, for the can, they must have given their staff training to understand how to use the equipment, and it's to as it is apart from Coca-Cola that does cannery and then malt. Like they are the next I have seen. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That is going to give them some competitive advantage, and the pricing is very competitive. Right? We all like new things, right? In Kumasi, there's the funeral economy, so it's new. Imagine those who go and do the a year, and they are presenting. Now it's not going to be 10 packs. They are going to say 10, you know, of the new drink. Anyway, that's by the way. Then we have the last four task, which is leveraging, right? Creating value with capabilities or competencies. So mobilizing these capabilities in configurations which are suitable for exploiting market opportunities, coordinating capabilities to achieve efficient configurations, and deploying the capability configuration in a specific strategy. I mean, configuration is just arranging elements and or putting them together, combining them to make to give better value or to create better value. So being able to identify all the resources, putting it together to give you that advantage, and then ensuring that you present it out there to give you that competitive advantage. Right. So if it's a service package, you make sure that all the resources are available to ensure that you are able to give the service that you profess to give. Then the second dimension, which is cognitive, and cognitive has to do with our understanding, our thinking, our perceptions, our thoughts, right? So cognition of managers and the interpretive, processes in which they engaged are deemed key aspects of their capability. So how they think, what they see. I mean, wouldn't you like to see what goes on in the mind of Elon Musk or who else? In the Musk is the one I find very intriguing. If Steve Jobs were also alive, yeah. Who else? Who else in that?
Jeff Bezos,
Jeff
Mark
Bezos, yeah. Jeff Bezos, okay, Amazon. Murdoch, right? The richest man, economics, stocks, wealth management. Yeah, I mean, because the things they come up with are amazing. Right. Anyway, managers may perceive problems objectively. These problems have to be discovered or generated through their actions. Others are also able to identify challenges way before you even recognize it or way before you even see it. In the same vein, some of them are able to propose solutions that nobody had even thought of. Right? Sometimes you talk to some people and you're like, wow. Decisions about resource allocations are shaped by how organizations channel managers' attention and reactions. Right? So what catches the eye of the managers, what they notice, and then what they do with what they've seen, their reactions. Some people are very reactive, right? They just think of the moment. They don't think of the consequence. Is that right? Yeah. They don't really think of the consequence. They just think of the moment. Right. Um, yeah, Kasapreko. Kwabneji. Ernest Chemist. Yeah, Kasapreko. I mean, it's amazing. And then Ernest Chemist being able to locally manufacture a whole lot of products that previously were all important, except for Danafco, Gihok those days. Yeah, Casopreco. And then despite the business ideas, right? Remember before, yeah, we had GBC radio with all the languages, but then remember they were just giving news in the local languages. I don't remember proper program. Maybe I was too young, but I don't remember proper programs. But when it came to local language, be granted that it was Akan, it came from the Despite group, and everybody replicated it. Anyway, so for the cognitive dimension, interpretive processes, interpretations of the environment defines how organizations respond to it. So how you interpret something. So someone sees something and they think they are dead. OpenAI, is Sam still in charge? I thought he had sold it over.
Yeah, he is. He's still in
They
charge.
rehired him back.
Sorry? They rehired him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Mark Zuckerberg, yeah. Yep. All right. Anyway, I mean, some people see certain things and then they panic. Like because remember we are saying it has to do with people's thoughts, perceptions, and thinking process. There are some people who are never phased. Like nothing shakes them. Right? They are always in control. Military people, yes, you expect that, but there are still other ordinary people who nothing gets to them more or less, right? And it's supposed to be a trait of the natural born leaders that they still show leadership irrespective of the situation. Anyway, then we have purposeful configuration, perceptions of shortcomings or strategic opportunities to conceptualize useful configurations of resources, so they are able to quickly identify opportunities. Anything that is happening, they are looking at the light at the end of the tunnel there. I mean, immediately they see something positive out of it. And then learning and reasoning, iterative process of trials and reflections by management. So being able to properly analyze situations, right? Being able to see that maybe we need to sell or we need to diversify, we need to retract our businesses, but being able to fully understand and assess situations, circumstances, all right? And in terms of how they are able to analyze and sense these problems, it goes with analogy. Analogy sometimes is governed by people's environment, right? Cultural beliefs and systems, and then personal belief systems as well. But it has to do with thinking, generally the way you think about things, your thoughts process. When you get a slide, you see that I've given you a link that talks about the various types of analogy reasoning, and then even the mental models, right? How someone perceives the real world, right? If you push it into psychology, then you're looking at people's complexes. There are some people who have this natural inferiority complex. So because of that, they are always barking. Like they always um they always come out as aggressive because they always think that someone is looking down at them. No matter, even if they become like the head of a unit or something, they still have that, and because of that, anything someone says, even if it's genuinely about the business, they take it personal. They think it's about them. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Such people, they because of that limitation, they even refuse to see, all right, immediately what lies ahead of them. They are clouded. They are clouded in their thoughts. And if you have a manager that way, I mean, even when the data is speaking to them, they still take it personal, right? Then we have the third, which is the behavioral dimension, right? So behaviorally, how managers behave generally is to look for solutions, and the solutions must be just good enough, right, to solve the problem based on their own, I mean, judgment, their best judgment, commonsensical judgment that they have. So based on what they are presented with, they form their conclusions. So if they are not provided with the full picture, it means that their solution might not all the time be good enough, right? And in that, you have what is known as the causal ambiguity. Ambiguity means that there's no clarity, right? It's a concept that describes the degree to which decision makers, where we are looking at management, understand the relationship between resource building actions and firm performance. That link sometimes is not clear. Whether it's the brand alone that is carrying the organization, whether it's personalities, whether it is linkage to a particular community, right? That there's no clarity as to that cause and effect, right? A proper understanding, but you can only get that understanding if you seek to analyze the data, to see the patterns, to see the trends, right? Managers can selectively pay attention to the information that falls within their specialty or interest, giving them a confidence in the decisions that they make and act quickly on that speciality. There again, if the person has a complex and needs further clarity, they might choose to go with only the limited expertise that they have. So the full causal effect is not clearly known to them. So again, it means that sometimes that information might be available, but how the manager wants to perceive it also plays a role, right? So if it is one that if the behavior of that manager is just to be satisfactory, they are looking at satisfying behavior, like they just want the one that will just bear solution, all right, based on that limited information, they just have a proposed initial solution. They don't want to depth, delve into it deeply. Whatever information that they have, they just go with it, right? So that they have that satisfaction that okay, it was just based on the number that was sold. Why that number was sold, no. Then you have the bounded rationality. It means that they are only rational to a certain extent and is bound by their cognitive limitations. So what it actually means is that if the person is extremely intelligent, then they of course they might delve in deeper. But if the person is mediocre, they'll just accept it as it is. All right. So they go within their limits, not recognizing that in fact I don't really have skills on data analytics, understanding it fully. So maybe let me call the data scientist to come and give me better understanding. They just go with the little that they know and then they take decisions that might not be fully appropriate. All right. But these are all individualistic tendencies that managers can have. Now you can look out for it. Then you have the problematic search. They are reactive, more or less. If something happens, then that one they actually come and look for that information to see. But if nothing happens, then they are fine. The heuristics, they are using practical methods like common sense. They use what they think is in their mind, right? Or sometimes they use the little background that they have, an educational guess, and that is what they'll use, like say, simple methods. Or sometimes you're not lucky, they might even use trial and error. Let's see if this one will work. If one doesn't work, let's do another one. But then the danger is the consequences. So all these determine how managers are able to properly handle organizations in terms of where they are and where they want to take them, the capability that they have, and how they would actually enforce it, and then the outcomes out of it. You can have all the resources, but if managers or the manager in charge is not one that is positive, is not one that is willing to learn, then you would have um, challenges. Right. I believe it's time for break. When you come back from break, we are going to do this. This one we are going to present now. It's not something you are taking away. All right. So let me show you, and then as soon as we come back from the break, my advice is that we have a short break so that we can close earlier. You can't go and do 5:30, or you don't agree with me. Your class rep never talks during your class. It's interesting. He chats with me, but he never talks. Ransford. Dr. Ransford. All right, so this is it. I'll be sending it to the chats, sorry, not chats, the group, so that you see, right? And it's about the dynamic managerial capabilities. It's a very short exercise, right? If you are able to assign tasks whilst you are in the breakout room, you should be able to do it. Prepare your presentation slide, send it to me. I will share the screen. You are not going to share the screen, so that it is fair. Else, when people, the first group presenting, you see that the last group will be correcting their own, so that theirs will be perfect. No, everybody will send theirs to me. So briefly, this is it. You have to look for one organization in, sorry, private sector, public sector, but make sure it's one that you can get information online about them. What do they do? So you just give a brief outline of what they do. Now you have to consider the three components of DMC, learning, strategic, and then resource. Now, for the organizations, which are potential strengths or weaknesses for the chosen organization with regards to the three DMCs? And then how can big data analytics be leveraged to mitigate the risk associated with them? Please don't start naming models and all that, but how does, in general, data analytics help them to be able to mitigate it? Because we know that there are risks involved. All of them, we look at the positive and negative side. So how would data be able to, manage these capabilities and help them lessen any associated risks? So it's just the first one is very straightforward. All right. So what you do is you select a leader in your group. When you are done, so I expect you to present a PowerPoint. Remember, the presentation for each group will be 5 minutes. So take note of what you are putting on your slides. You are not going beyond 5 minutes, so be careful. Each group, when you are presenting your slide, please capture the name and student number of each member in the group. All right. So Ransford, please, how many minutes for your break? I'm sharing this with you. No, I'm sharing it in the general platform. Sorry, excuse me.
Hello, madam.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. I just wanted to verify, are we using our break for the assignment, or when we come back, you give us 20 minutes to do the assignment?
Yes, but I need Ransford. If you say break 30 minutes, you close at 5:30. All right. Yeah. Oh, no. It's not part of your break. I was just saying it because I had like 3 minutes before the break at 3 o'clock, so I was just using that time. So your class rep says your break is 30 minutes. I'm vetoing it to 20 minutes. So we are coming back to at 3:20, please. And then when we come back, I'll put you into the breakout rooms for you to start. This one you are giving a presentation. It's part of our lecture, so we are finishing it and then presenting. All right. So I've shared it on your. It's on the platform. You can pick it up and then we do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Doc. Still recording.
Aba.
All right, so the 20 minutes is up. So I'm going to put you in the breakout rooms. I'm looking at the number of participants here. And I have 47, so that's 46. All right, so please, I'm assigning you into breakout rooms now.